Tadparam paryaya vidmahe Jnanalingeshwaraya dhimahi Tanno guruhu prachodayate om. Om Yoga Maharshi Dr. Swami Geetananda Giri Guru Maharaj Ki Jai. Namaste, Vanakkam, Swagatam, Namaskaram. Welcome back to our 32nd Saturday, Scintillating Saturdays. And today, I wanted to go into a very commonly contemplated topic. And the topic is fate and free will. And this always is seen as a dichotomy. Fate, it's either fate or free will. And there's a thick Berlin Wall put between the East and West Berlin as far as this is concerned. Or other walls that people want to build between things. What I want to explore today is it is not fate or free will, but it's actually fate and free will. There is an and instead of or, which means that they can both coexist. And that is what we are going to explore today. I'll start off by reading a short passage from Swamiji's Yoga Step by Step. As all of you know, the Yoga Step by Step is one of Swamiji's major contributions to yoga literature. And thousands have benefited through it. And currently, TM52 is helping me work through it every week. And this week, lesson 20, the topic is fate or free will. And that is why today's session is on that. I'll read out a few words from Swamiji before I go into it. We are all bound by the law of karma, and the sooner we realize it, the better. We must learn to live by this law, which governs all aspects of life, both high and low. This law cannot be broken because it is the supreme nature itself. The Lord or God and His law are one. Many try to break natural or karmic law and end up breaking themselves, or at least badly bending themselves. Unhappiness, sickness, disease, and death are the manifestation of this attempt to break the law. The wise know that to live in harmony with the law is the highest dharma. Dharma or smriti is a Sanskrit word for law. No other word has caught on more in non-Indian languages than the term karma. It is virtually a household word in most European tongues and used commonly where the yoga word is hardly known. Those interested in philosophy and metaphysics have widely spread this term, although the connotation in Western language is one of misfortune rather than its proper sense of cause and effect. Many feel if you accept the doctrine of karma, that you are accepting a fatalistic doctrine of predeterminism. Karma is not fate. In the sense of kismet, which is the Islamic word you find, where we say, this is my kismet, this is my vidhi. Idhi and talayaruthu is how we often say it. You can make or break your karma by taking your life into your own hands and becoming a master of your own fate. That is where you become a Raja Yogi. And this is why Swamiji then goes on to tell us, very few realize that when we begin the yoga path, the implication of mastery of one's faith is part of it. In depth, it means being able to perceive the lengthy pattern of cause and effect. See, most people cannot even perceive this. But through yoga, you start to enhance your sensibility and sensitivity, and the lengthy pattern of cause and effect, going back into the dim past and forward into a bright future. There is little or nothing we can do about the past except to face up to the fact that we must face whatever has been done and see it through, whether good or ill. And this is why Swamiji then says, adopting a proper positive yogic attitude helps us in the first step towards what later could be termed karma yoga. Here what we are trying to understand is how we can actually, by living our dharma, start to alter the karmic cycles. We are today the culmination of all we have been in our yesteryears, and we will be tomorrow all of the past plus today. So I just want to keep this. I'm not going to read out the full lesson because that is not the context here. But just to introduce the concept that we tend to think it is my fate, what can I do about it? It is a fatalistic, passive resignation. Now, yoga doesn't believe in passive resignation. Active determination is what yoga is about. As opposed to the passive resignation of the non-yogi, the yogi understands that active determination can occur in the present moment. And this is why the present moment, what Maharishi Patanjali calls the kshana. Kshana is the present moment. This kshana, in Tamil we say ganam, in the ganam. This moment is the moment where you can actually start to bring in your own power of choice. And what is the power of choice? The superpower of being human. Most people don't realize that every moment is an opportunity given by nature, by the universe, by the divine. This is an opportunity for us to make a choice in the present moment. And what does this choice do? It then determines what the next moments are going to be. So we can understand everything as a sequence. This is a sequence which is known in the terms of yoga as what would be called a krama. Krama refers to a sequence. So, kshana tat kramayo is a statement from Maharishi Patanjali. Kshana tat kramayo, that there is a sequence of moments. And Maharishi Patanjali tells us very clearly. He gives us a very beautiful statement in the Vibhuti-pada. The Vibhuti-pada is a very beautiful place where these understandings are brought out, but most people don't bother to even go through it. In the 52nd verse of the Vibhuti-pada, he says, Kshana tat kramayo samyamat vivekajam jnanam. Kshana tat kramayo samyamat. Samyama is the crux of the whole of Vibhuti-pada. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi. Trayam ekatra samyama. The dharana, dhyana, samadhi, when they become one, it is called samyama. Samyama is the capacity we have to focus on something. That focus becomes uninterrupted and we become one with that which we have chosen to focus upon. What was the word? Chosen to focus upon. And Maharishi Patanjali in the Vibhuti-pada gives us all the things we can focus upon and what manifests when samyama occurs on that particular choice. So you start to focus. What is that statement there? Kshana tat kramayo. When you start to choose to do samyama, samyama upon what? Samyama is a choice. Samyama will not happen on its own, and not by anybody tapping you with a peacock feather on your head or knocking the base of your spine to arouse your kundalini. All that nonsense, throw it out the window. Nobody else is needed for you. You need yourself. Everybody else can be a support system. You are self-independent. And you have that power of choice. Don't give it over to somebody else to run your life. When you take back your power of choice and you start to use it as it is meant to be, you grow in that power of choice. So coming back, when you choose to focus samyama, when you start to focus on the kshana tatkramayo, what are the sequences that are happening of the moment? What is this present moment? What was the previous moment? What is the next moment? This is what we have been exploring in our Yantra Vidya Navangam. 9 sessions we concluded yesterday on Yantra, where we start to understand there are these sequences that are happening. We call them the karmic cycles. And each is linked to the previous one. Every moment is linked to the next moment. And as you start to understand each moment, as you start to choose to focus on each moment, Vivekajam Jnanam starts to manifest in you. That highest Viveka, the capacity of discernment, that further strengthens your power of choice. So first of all, you have to put in a little power of choice. It's called priming the pump. Priming the pump, you first have to prime the pump, and then the pump starts giving you all the water you want. The first priming of the pump occurs by you choosing to focus on the present moment and the succession of moments that are linked to the present moment. So you have the present moment, you have the moment right before it, you have the moment right after it. And if you realize this moment can be a millisecond, a microsecond, a second, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, or even a whole lifetime. This whole lifetime can be understood as a present moment. This whole lifetime can be understood as a present moment, which is a present for us to choose to live as human beings. So the power of choosing to focus on the sequence of the moment, and where do you focus on it? In the present moment. So when you start to focus on the present moment, this kshana, it starts to awaken in you the Vivekajam Jnanam, the higher capacity for discernment that is linked to the buddhi. The buddhi, that is part of our Vijnanamaya Kosha, our higher choice-based body. Our existence that is based on choice. Now we have an existence based on the body and its functioning and the lower mind. And then there is an existence. We have an existence that is based on us utilizing the power of choice. That is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, where the buddhi is there. And what does the buddhi have? Ichcha Shakti, the power of intent. Kriya Shakti, the power of action. Jnana Shakti, the power of wisdom. So the more you focus on the present moment and the sequence of moments, the more the discernment dawns, and the more the discernment dawns, the more it strengthens your power of choice for the present moment. And what lies in the present moment? Free will. Free will lies in the present moment. Free will doesn't lie yesterday. Free will doesn't lie tomorrow. Free will lies in the present moment. And that is why when we mindfully, with viveka, with discernment, when we start to choose in the present moment, what am I going to choose? As the Yoga Sutras start, Atha Yoga Anushasanam, in this auspicious present moment, the Atha, Yes, Padma. In the Atha, in this present moment, you are having an auspicious present moment. People are always going to the astrologer. What is an auspicious day to do something and what is the auspicious time? Every moment where you exercise the power of conscious choice is an auspicious moment for your spiritual growth and evolution. It doesn't matter anything else. As Jnana Sambandha, the young Bhakta of Lord Shiva, he is told, this is not an auspicious moment, don't go there, don't do this. He says, when the principle of transformation, when Shiva himself, Shiva is not just the God, Shiva is the transformative principle of the universe. That which is enabling transformation to occur. That is why it is auspicious. Tadeko Vashishta Shivakevaloham, says Adi Shankara. He doesn't mean Shiva as sitting in the high Himalayas having a cuppa of chai with Parvati. So important that we realize Shiva is the principle of change, transformation. The only constant is change. Matram ondre magadadu. It's a beautiful statement and everybody attributes it to Thalaivar Rajinikanth because it came in Kochadiyan, one of his movies. Matram ondre magadadu. Change is the only thing that is constant. What is that change? That change is the principle of Shiva consciousness. And that is why Jnana Sambandha, he says, when that Shiva consciousness is in my heart, how can there be anything called inauspiciousness? How can there be anything called the negative effects of the planets or anything like that? And he sings a very beautiful 10 verses, of which the first part I will sing. Veyur tholi pangan vidamunda kandan miga nalla veenai tadavi மாசர் திங்கள் கங்கை முடிமேலணிந்து என் உள்ளமே புகுந்த அதனால் ஞாயிறு திங்கள் செவ்வாய் புதன் வியாழன் வெள்ளி சனி பாம்பு இரண்டும் உடனே ஆசரு நல்ல நல்ல அவை நல்ல 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 அடியவர்க்கும் இகவே. ஞாயிறு திங்கள் செவ்வாய் புதன் வியாழன் வெள்ளி சனி பாம்பு இரண்டும். The seven, the sun, moon, all of these plus the two influences, Rahu, Ketu. He says, all the negativities will go away. When the Adiya, the Bhakta, has that Shiva inside them, when the transformative principle comes alive in you, all the negativities will fall away. How do you bring the transformative principle into you? By the power of choice in the present moment. That is why the moment is Atha. That is why this Kshana is an Atha. It is an auspicious moment where you can exercise the power of choice, which is your free will. You say, okay, so it's all free will. Well, I told you already it's going to be both. Because the moment you exercise the power of free will, you have already put it into action. The die have been cast. You have thrown the dice. So now what happens? What you have thrown out, thought, word, deed, by your power of choice, what it starts to do is, it starts to go into the sequence now. You have put something into the sequence. You have a kettle of boiling water. You can see what you put into that boiling water. You put tea powder, you get tea. You put coffee powder, you get coffee. You put rasam powder, you get rasam. You put sambar powder, you get sambar. You put nothing, you end up with hot water. In that same boiling water, what you put in determines what you are going to get back. So you have the power to choose. What are you going to put in? If I put in tea powder, I am going to get back tea. I cannot say, no, I want coffee. You have put into motion by your free will, by your power of choice, the tea powder into the boiling water. What are you going to get back? Tea. And depending on how long that process goes, it will be nice tea or not nice tea. You cannot suddenly say, I want rasam, when you have put tea powder in. Or if you have put nothing in, you're going to get boiling water and you say, oh, I thought I'm going to get wine. You're not going to get it. Because what did you put in? What you have put in has created a sequence. You had the choice of what you wanted to put in at that moment. That was your free will. But once you have exercised your power of free will, once you have exercised your power of free will, you are to bear the repercussions. You have to accept the repercussions, the consequences of your choice. That becomes fate. So, the previous moment, free choice, becomes the present moment's fate. The present moment's free choice becomes the next moment's fate. Yesterday's free will becomes today's fate. Today's free will becomes tomorrow's fate. So what do we need to do in the present moment? We need to accept. We need to accept that which is coming to us in the present moment from the past, work on it consciously to work it out. And in the present moment, make sure we are putting into the sequence that which we wish to manifest in the next moment. So there are two things happening in the present moment. Your free will is having two aspects. One is the acceptance and the ichcha, the power of intent to work out that which is manifesting as fate. From the previous moments, you are saying, yes, I have to work this out. I have to manifest it and work it out. At the same time, I have a choice. What am I going to put in now that will influence the next moment? And this is where it is a combination of fate and free will, because free will is constantly, we are having an opportunity for free will. Now this free will and the power of it, the strength of it and the capacity for it will again be based on how we have grown evolutionarily. In general, animals usually don't have a power of choice. They are bound by instinct. They are bound by conditioning. Now what happens is that when we start to grow, the power of choice grows. So similarly, when animals come into contact with human beings, the animal, by virtue of coming into contact with the human being, starts to develop a little bit of the human quality of choice. And that is why the power of choice in a domesticated animal is a bit more than the power of choice in a wild animal. Because that process of being exposed to human beings who have the power of choice, whether they use it or not is a different story. And this is why when the animals used to come into an ashram, into a gurukula, the behavior of the animal would be different than when it was outside. And this is why in so many of the gurukulas and ashrams in the forest, you would have coexistence of animals that would normally be antagonistic to each other. They would be living together in harmony. It is a very beautiful concept here. So what is happening is that we are constantly growing. We are constantly growing in consciousness, in the power of choice. And the moment we start to mindfully, consciously accept what is there in the present moment and decide to work on it, we start to alter things. Now Maharishi Patanjali gives us another concept in this. Because what happens is that he reminds us that there are threefold transformations, which he calls parinama. The word for transformation in Maharishi Patanjali's terms is parinama, and there are three types of transformation, parinamas: samadhi parinama, nirodha parinama, ekagrata parinama. Three types of transformations again described in Vibhuti-pada, which is why the common tendency is that people just read, if they read it, the first and second pada, and Vibhuti-pada, they are lucky, they read that Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi, 3 or 4 sutras, and that's it. Kaivalya-pada nobody cares about because nobody understands it. The Vibhuti-pada actually gives us extensive clues on these type of concepts. In the 16th verse of the Vibhuti-pada, Maharishi Patanjali says, Parinama-traya, the three types of transformation, samyamat, when you perform samyama on Parinama-traya, the three types of transformation, samadhi parinama, nirodha parinama, and ekagrata parinama, he says, at that time, atita anagata jnanam. What do you get? What is the siddhi that manifests? Atita anagata. You start to understand the past and the future. Just think about that. Parinama traya samyamat. What is happening is that you are, by contemplating the transformative principle, where lies the transformative principle? In the present moment. By understanding the transformation and going deep into the present moment, you start to understand the past and the future. What a beautiful concept, because what does it mean? It basically means that you are starting to understand the whole sequence. And for this, Patanjali gives us a very beautiful set of sutras where he talks about dharma, lakshana, avastha. Three concepts are here. So, he gives a very beautiful concept. Dharma is the essential nature. Dharma is the essential nature. Lakshana are the attributes. Avastha is the state. So, common example is given for dharma, lakshana, and avastha. That you have a clay pot. What is that clay pot? The clay pot has clay as its nature. So the dharma or the dharmi of the clay pot is clay. But presently that clay pot is a pot, but it could have been a Ganesha statue, and a Ganesha statue could become a pot, and both are clay. So the lakshana is the fact whether it is a pot, whether it is a Ganesha statue or a statue of Lord Shiva, or a statue of you. Some people like to make statues of themselves. The third is avastha. Is it an old pot? Is it a broken pot? Is it usable or not usable? Is the avastha. What is its state? So you have a pot whose nature is clay. It is presently a pot with a certain color and attribute, lakshana. And the ponnu romba lakshanama irukka, they will say that girl has very good characteristics. And the attributes and characteristics of the person, lakshanam they call it. So what is the nature of the person? Nobody looks at it. They only look at lakshanam, and then after that they struggle. Either the boy or the girl, whichever it may be. Avastha is the state. And there is a very, very strong understanding of this, because Patanjali says, Shanta Udita Abhyapadeshya Dharmanupati Dharmi. The nature is omnipresent. The nature remains one. But what is happening? is that form is changing. The form is changing, but the nature is constant, which means basically there is a common thread, and what is happening is that things are changing. And he says, why does that change occur? Because Maharishi Patanjali is the master psychologist. Nobody has surpassed him, and nobody will surpass him. He says, why does that occur? He says in 15th verse of Vibhuti-pada, Kramanyatvam parinamanyatve hetuhu. The manifest differences are due to different sequence of processing. If you do the steps required for a Ganesha statue, the clay will become Ganesha statue. If you do the steps required to make a water pot, that clay will become a water pot. If you do the steps required for it to become a floor tile, that clay will become a floor tile. So, the clay is being molded by the sequence that is being adopted. And the sequence that is being adopted determines what is happening. So, this continual commonality flows through the lump of clay. The statue of Ganesha and the pot, they appear different because of change in the processing sequence. Change in sequence produces a different result. Now, where can the change happen? In the present moment. That is where free will comes in. Why are all humans so different from one another? 7 billion plus, and no two human beings have the same fingerprint. No two human beings have the same iris print. Why are we all different? Because of a change in our genetic sequencing. Even identical twins are different. And that is why I say that Patanjali may have been a geneticist too. The genetic sequence, there's been a lot of work done on the human genome. And that is why it enables us to understand what karma is. If you do things in a certain way, then certain things will happen as a result. And that is why we can alter our karma by skillful efforts. Skillful efforts that are determined by conscious choices. That is why I often remind people, if you plant potatoes, you will reap potatoes, not apples. You need to choose what you want to plant. And that is why doing the right thing at the right time for the right person, for the right reason, in the right way, produces the desired end result. You start to live in righteousness. That is righteousness. This is how Swamiji has defined yoga as the science and art of righteousness. Understanding what is the dharma to be lived. And that is why when you live your dharma every moment, you are automatically changing the pattern of karma. If you want to go from Pondicherry to Chennai, if you want to go from Pondicherry to Chennai, there is a right way to go there. You choose some other way, you're not going to get to Chennai, as simple as that. You have to know where you want to go, make the choice to go there and follow the sequence to go from Pondicherry to Chennai. That is why the sequence of sadhana is so important. People say, I can do whatever I want. There is a sequence, there is a pattern, there is a methodology. When we follow the proper methodology of yoga sadhana, our sadhana will produce the anticipated outcome. If not, watch out. And then don't blame yoga or God for your own mistakes and foolishness. This is again the power of responsibility. The power of responsibility is a choice. The power of responsibility is a power of choice we can make as a human being in the present moment. And that is why when we talk about genetics, people get a bit scared. They say, oh, I have a genetic predisposition. Yeah, we all have a genetic predisposition to die. Doesn't mean you all have to die right now. Okay? See, genetic predisposition, genes are certain patterns. But the way that pattern expresses, you can alter in the present moment. And that is called epigenetics. Earlier we said, oh, your genetical structure is fixed. What we realized is the genetic structure is not so important as the gene expression. And you can alter the gene expression. You can determine which of your genes, the positive or the negative, are going to manifest and express themselves. And how do you determine it? By the choices you make in your life. How are you going to think? How are you going to talk? How are you going to act? What are you going to eat? What are you going to watch? With whom are you going to interact? All of this starts to influence the epigenetic expression of your genetic structure and sequence. So basically, if we consider genes as fate, epigenetics is free will. This is where we make a difference. If you change the way you eat, if you change the way you think, if you change the way you live, you will modify the expression. It is absolute common sense. And this is now being backed by recent scientific research in this field. My professor of medicine at JIPMER, Dr. A.K. Das, one of India's top endocrinologists, he used to tell us again and again, he said, your genes, your genetic structure is like a loaded gun. Your genes are like a loaded gun. But whether you pull the trigger or not lies in your hands. The genes are like a loaded gun. Yes, you have a loaded gun. But are you going to pull the trigger or not? Pulling the trigger or not pulling the trigger is the power of choice that lies in the present moment. And we human beings have been blessed with that power of choice. And the power of choice, mind you, is not just to make a choice on which brand of toothpaste you want to buy. That is not what the power of choice was created for. It was created so that we human beings could, in the present moment, work out the karma, the fate of the past moments. Make a free will choice that will work in the present moment and create a new future. And this is why the science of yantra that we have been dealing with for the past 3 weeks enables us to understand these patterns and say, okay, this is a pattern that is happening in my life. What can I do about it? What are the choices I have? How can I learn from it? How can I grow through this opportunity? Because every opportunity is an opportunity for growth and transformation. Coming back to where I started. Do not build a thick wall between fate and free will. Understand that they are one and the same. They coexist. They coexist. And the power to alter it, the power to come in, we talk about genetic engineering these days. We go in and slice genes. We try to alter things. We can do that by the choices we make in the present moment. By adopting the attitude. Again, Maharishi Patanjali, you don't need anybody else. Maharishi Patanjali is more than enough. It's so clear. Adopting Pratipaksha Bhavanam is such a beautiful way to go forward. Adopting the Chatur Bhavana, the 4 attitudes, Maitri Karuna Muditopekshanam, Sukadukka Punya Punya Vishayanam, Bhavanartha Chitta Prasadanam. All of these beautiful attitudes are so much part of it. And of course, the whole process of Ashtanga Yoga. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhaya, Ashtau Angani. And why are these 8 limbs given to us by the Maharishi? Yoganga Nushtanad Ashuddhikshaye Jnanadipti Aviveka Kyatehe. Aviveka Kyatehe. When that Viveka comes upon, that is the whole process of yoga. Develop Viveka Jam Jnanam, Viveka Kyati, so that in the present moment, we know that we have a power of choice. We know that we can make a difference. And then we start to do it. Have the will to want to change. Ichcha Shakti. Understand how to do it, why it is needed. Jnana Shakti. And just do it. Do it now. Din, 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 din. Kriya Shakti. I hope that we all can start to make choices in our life. We have the power of choice. The power of choice truly is the superpower of being human. In the present moment, we can work out the karma of the past moments. We can work it out. It's like diffusing a bomb. Don't let the bomb go off and blast your life to smithereens. Instead, choose to diffuse the bomb mindfully, skillfully. And then make sure no more bombs are being planted in your life. This is where prarabdha karma is the karma manifesting. Learn to work with the manifesting karma. And kriyamana karma is the one you are creating right now. Make sure what you are creating, what you are sowing, is what you want to reap later on. Wishing you a wonderful weekend, and till we meet next, be the best you. Be a blessing. Be a blessing wherever you are. Be blessed and be a blessing. Hari Om Tat Sat. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shantihi Shantihi Shantihi. Om Dhanyavadaha. Thank you. Nandri. Vanakkam.